In this video, I'm talking about a program that is available for single soldiers in the United States Army known as the BOSS program. What's up, friends? Welcome to an all-new video. In this one, we're talking about the BOSS program.
Like a boss!
And no, that's not what I'm talking about. This is a program that is available for single soldiers. It stands for Better Opportunity for Single Soldiers. Now, this is a program that might not be available everywhere. So before people start leaving comments talking about how I've never heard of this, or this wasn't a thing back in my day, whatever the case might be, it's not really a widely used thing. I'm gonna give some of my experience of the BOSS program because I've had some experience dealing with it, actually being in the BOSS program and everything, but don't get too wrapped around it. There are some installations that don't use this at all, and there's some installations that use it really heavily. So essentially is what it is. You have an organization. It's kind of, made up of other single soldiers. You'll have a president, a vice president, a treasurer, a secretary, kind of like almost like, I don't know, you can think of it as, in high school when you had the president for the high school and all that stuff. But these are the people that are supposed to represent these single soldiers and, provide them with knowledge and help and a lot of other activities. One of the key things that this does is it kind of helps give single soldiers something to do rather than just drinking, because that's commonly what ends up happening. You have single soldiers living in the barracks and all they want to do is party and get drunk. So sometimes you're gonna end up with still situations like that. People wanna have fun, right? And that's not a big deal as long as you're doing it responsibly. But to try to combat that and try to make it not get carried away, then they try to do things like this. Have this BOSS program to get soldiers out of the barracks, do activities, have someone to talk to. So let's kind of talk a little bit more about that. So these representatives are in place to be able to talk to the leadership about problems maybe going on in the barracks. If there's some kind of poor living conditions, maybe problems in the barracks, maybe there's some kind of problem with sexual harassment or racism or something along those lines going on in the barracks, these are the individuals that are kind of designated to help kind of deal with that and bring it up to the leadership so that hopefully the leadership can handle it properly. But it definitely goes well beyond that as well. There's also a lot of activities that are going on with BOSS to be able to get soldiers out and about. You might have some kind of fun activity of basically kind of like going on a field trip. Maybe it's on the weekend. Sometimes it's even during the duty day where these great opportunities are available for the single soldiers. Hey, if you're wanting to go to participate in this BOSS event, then you get out of work to go do it. And that's kind of part of the intention as well, is to bring up the morale of these single soldiers. So they're not just being barracks rats, just living in the barracks, never leaving the barracks, and then just, drinking their army days away by getting wasted in the barracks, or just sitting in the barracks, maybe not necessarily to deal with alcohol, but to get them out, have some fun, and enjoy life. And there's a lot of these different events that they'll do. They'll go rafting, they'll go hiking, they'll go maybe go-kart racing or something like that. And they have these MWR funds that are funding this to make it to where maybe either soldiers can do it for free or for really cheap. I might have to get into it another time of what MWR is, but essentially it's morale, welfare, and recreation. It's just another organization that works with the United States Army or the military to provide these kind of activities, I guess. But by allowing soldiers to kind of get out, do these events, go rafting or doing whatever, it kind of, helps build that morale. So it's not always just all work and no play kind of a thing, especially with some units where you're going to the field constantly, you're going to deployments and all this kind of stuff, and you start really getting discouraged. And this is also to try to motivate people to want to hopefully stay in the Army because you have a little bit more fun. So it's not all this crazy work. And, on some of the units that don't utilize it as much, it's not going to be as high of morale possibly. But some of the units maybe, that do utilize the BOSS program more and have it in place in a good system, maybe increases the morale of these single soldiers and increases the longevity of making these soldiers, want to stay in because they, have fun being in the Army, and it's not always just all deployments and field problems, but they have some of this other fun events that are going on with these MWR events and the BOSS program. From my experience, overseas is a little bit more heavier on the BOSS program than in the United States. In the United States, like when I was at Fort Riley, it was around, but it wasn't really that big of a thing. That was also in the early 2000s. When I went to Korea, it was a huge thing. It was very, very active, to try to get soldiers to want to participate in local events and get out of the barracks and, not just go hit up the bars all the time while they're in Korea. When I was in Fort Carson, it was a little iffy here and there. There was a little bit of BOSS program stuff going on in 30 ACR when I was with that unit, but then I don't think I remember any of the BOSS program stuff happening when I was in 410 Cav. So just like some of you out there that are maybe currently in the military or veterans in the military, you may have little to no experience with the boss program because it's really on the unit whether or not they want to, implement this and kind of make this an active thing in that community with the single soldiers of that unit. But when it was a really active thing, like in Korea, I was the vice president for the boss program in Korea, and we had meetings to kind of try to plan events and try to get other soldiers that were single to want to participate in this. Kind of in Korea, you're usually like without your family, so sometimes married soldiers can participate in these as well. In those circumstances, it might not be that same circumstance, back in the States, but in Korea, it was a little bit flexible on that because at the same time, they didn't want these married soldiers that are still kind of being treated like single soldiers living in the barracks, don't have their family there. They don't want them to just, sit in the barracks and just drink their time away while they're there on their free time in Korea. So sometimes they would get those people involved as well. But I remember, we would do these little meetings. We would go to other installations to do like these boss events where me and the other members of that boss kind of like faculty, the secretary and all that stuff, we went to another post to kind of talk about how to, arrange better, events, how to do different things as a member of that boss community. And we had some fun stuff. I think we did some go-kart racing, some miniature golf, and all that kind of exciting things. And then that just kind of helped you build up some more fun events for your community of single soldiers back at your installation, back at your post, and kind of organize that. Back in the States, the only really boss kind of events I remember is we would do sometimes some barbecues. They would have, I think they had some ski trips and snowboarding trips that if you were a single soldier and you wanted to go on this ski trip or snowboarding trip, it was like super cheap, maybe even free. I don't remember if it was free or not, but you could go on that during the day. So some people, maybe had some kind of classes they had to go do, and these boss soldiers, these single soldiers that were a part of that, got to take off and go snowboarding and skiing. So if you're someone who's going into the Army and you're a single soldier, get out, go do stuff. Don't just become one of those barracks rats that just sit in the barracks playing video games all the time, getting wasted, watching TV or whatever, is going on. Either get involved with the boss program or just simply on your own if your unit is not heavily involved with the boss program. Get out and see the sites, see the local stuff, go have fun with friends and check out different sites and events and whatever is happening in that area. And I highly encourage, if there is a boss program at the unit you go to find out what they're doing. Like I said, sometimes you can get some sweet hookups on either something really cheap, maybe even free, some kind of fun events to be able to go and participate in. So if I have any veterans out there, or maybe some people that are currently in the military, what is your experience with the boss program? Some of you, like I said, are probably going to say that you've never even heard of it, never knew it existed, never seen anything happening in that kind of situation, but there are probably some of you out there that are watching this that have had some experience with the boss program. What kind of events have you done? For me personally, it was probably that Korea event that I did where me and the other boss members went down and we spent like a whole week down there doing these fun events. We had to do some boring classes, but in between there was some fun stuff like that mini golf and those go-kart racing. If you have any questions about this program, I'll try to answer whatever questions I can. You can leave those questions down in the comment section down below. As well as, is there something in the Army that you're interested in? Is there something you want to know more information about? Leave some comments down below as well, as I like to look at those comments and see what it is you guys are curious about in the military to give me ideas for future videos. So hopefully you enjoyed this little video about the boss program in the United States Army. If so, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Check out some of the links down in the description to my social media, PO Box, Patreon, all that fun stuff. Some recommended videos right over there. Thanks so much for watching. I'm ThatChrisChaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya. Like a boss.